And that is when tradition says, popes have said, Our Lady came to him and said to him, preach my Psalter. Remember the Psalter? It was already in existence, but it was not the Rosary. It was not a spiritual weapon. It had no meditations attached to it. The Mendicant orders were about to be born, and they would take the monastic Psalter out of the monasteries into the streets as an evangelical tool to bring the heretics back and to bring others to the truth. So when he was given this commission by the Blessed Virgin Mary, she told him that it would be a weapon. Some accounts say that she used the word battering ram against heresy. He went out and he converted so many people, brought people back to the faith. And then he founded a community, the Order of Preachers, to join him in this and to spread all around the world, the Dominicans. And you know what they became known as in Latin? Because, back then, the Latin phraseology, Dominicanis, the dogs of God. That was the vision that his mother had. That's why whenever you see an image of St. Dominic, you almost always see next to him a dog with a torch in its mouth. Because when she had that vision, the dog had a torch in its mouth and it leaped out of her womb and it went throughout the whole world, lighting the world on fire with the saving truth of Jesus Christ. So he founded the Dominicans, and they started to win souls back in an unbelievable pace. And then he died in 1221. And this still went by the name of the Psalter. It wasn't yet quite known universally as the Rosary. That would come, but it was called the Psalter still at that time. You know who was not a huge fan of this? Satan. He knew what had been unsheathed, that the queen had been given the weapon, and now it was in the world, and he was going to go on the attack. And he did. He did. Do you know what happened in the next century in Europe? The Black Plague, the Black Death. 1/3 of Europe died. Do you know how many people that was? Estimates are that it was as many as 25 million people died. Whoa. Why? Yes, it was because of rats infested things and so forth that it spread, but there was a spiritual component. These are not my words, so don't write me up in the paper and say, Father says the plague is because we're, St. Louis de Montfort said it. Centuries later, in the Secret of the Rosary, he would say that the Black Death, the Black Plague, in Europe in the 14th century was a result of Satan seeking to get rid of this. The weapon had been unsheathed. He wanted to destroy all documentary evidence associated with it. And by the way, this is a frequent tactic of the evil one. When some new form of devotion is given to the world, he will seek to burn the original documents. Look at almost any mystic and visionary who's given a chaplet of Divine Mercy, for example. St. Faustina burned her first version of her diary, and so many others. If you do the historical research, you'll see that Satan goes on the attack, and he did. St. Louis de Montfort says that he went on the attack because he knew that these infestations would go into convents, monasteries that had libraries, and those places would have to be burned because they were infested with the plague, and they were burned. They were. So many lost. And we don't have much of the original documents at all associated with this. As a matter of fact, we don't have one single word from St. Dominic. Did you know that? The guy founded the Order of Preachers who speak. We don't have one word historically preserved from the mouth of St. Dominic. Not one. Are we therefore supposed to think that he never talked? Of course not. He preached, that's what he did. He founded the Order of Preachers, the dogs of God. Satan was on the hunt for this. But when St. Dominic had died in 1221, he sent some of his brothers, right before his death, to England. That was a key move. Because you know what England became known as during that century of the Black Plague? The Dowry of Mary. You can look all this up historically. Why was it called that? For many reasons. One of which was, this went off of mainland Europe to go for safekeeping during the plague that struck mainland Europe. Oh, it hit England too. But it ravaged mainland Europe. During the 14th century in England, colleges were founded where the presidents and founders of the colleges mandated that this be prayed by the students and the president. They would put these extra ones in little bowls at the entrances of churches, so if people didn't have their own, they could take one to use. The Dowry of Mary, kept safe offshore during the Black Death. So after that was over, in the next century, the 15th century, there was a renewal movement happening. And my brother friars here could tell you about this. The observant reform movement, where after people survived, many religious communities that were founded the century before or a century and a half before wanted to get back to the original charism of their founder, recover that original fire and everything. Franciscans were the first to start doing it. Then you had Dominicans follow, and you had a whole bunch of Servites and a whole bunch of others. And heaven started to speak to certain individuals about different forms of rosaries particular to their order. So you had the Bridgetine Rosary, given to St. Bridget of Sweden. You had the ancient Servite Rosary, which, by the way, was also founded during the century of St. Dominic. How many of you have heard about Cabello? Our Lady Cabello, right? Well, we'll get into that a little later. It's an ancient rosary, the Seven Sorrows of Our Lady Rosary. It was founded in the 13th century, right after Our Lady gave St. Dominic the original one. Well, the Servites said, we need to recover that. St. Bridget of Sweden was given visions. She was given a form of a rosary. And the Franciscans, in the year